Hey everybody, this is Darren and you're watching Flick Connection, the show that helps you get more out of movies. And today I want to tell you about the best revenge flicks you can currently watch on Netflix. Now, the revenge subgenre is one of my favorite genres, and there happens to be a decent list of good revenge movies currently available on Netflix. Even though Netflix is having a pretty weak month at the moment, I somehow was able to come up with 10 good recommendations that involve revenge. So we'll go ahead and get started right away at number 10 with a movie called Darc, and that's D-A-R-C. Now, this one is at number 10 for a reason. I didn't like a lot of things about it, and I'll talk about those, but at the end, I still really enjoyed it. Like, I enjoyed the flavor of it, and I enjoyed what I was watching, but it's low production value, which that's strike one, but that's not a deal breaker. But just, it wasn't particularly creative. It really felt derivative. It felt like it was trying to be John Wick, and so much so that like there was a nightclub fight, and the whole nightclub's lit with like pink and blue lights, just like John Wick. You know, so there was sort of that element, but it was still really fun. There's a lot of action in it, a lot of fighting. It's not the best choreography you've ever seen, but I like these kinds of movies so much that I dug this one. And now this one had a little bit of heart. The acting's not particularly great. Like I said, I've got so many negative things to say about this one, but still, I enjoyed it. So this one's at number 10, and it's really going to be for people who really love this genre. You're going to dig this movie. If you're looking for just a good movie to watch on Netflix, start closer down to number 1. Let's not go with Darc, but if you've exhausted everything and you really love this genre and you missed Darc, this is going to be the one to watch. At number 9, another really kind of low budget, a weird kind of movie that's not particularly great that I just really enjoyed. He Never Died, starring Henry Rollins. Now, it's been a while since we've seen Henry Rollins, and we almost never see him in a starring role. He's the lead. He's one of the only faces you're going to see in this movie, so hopefully you like Henry Rollins. If you're a fan of his, this is a must-watch. If you're a fan of stuff like the TV show Supernatural, you'll dig this one. It deals with a lot of similar elements. There is supernatural elements to this one. There's not to the other ones on the list, but this one, you know, they're really ingrained in it. That's really what it's about. But it is sort of a revenge movie, so I recommend it for that. I would also say fans of Bruce Campbell, not necessarily Evil Dead, but just fans of like Bruce Campbell sort of campy movies will probably dig this, even though this one's more serious. Like, it's not like a Bruce Campbell movie, but for some reason, I just feel like fans of his are going to dig what Henry Rollins did with this one. So it's just kind of a cool little movie that, like, nobody is talking about. If you've seen it, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from people that have seen it and what you thought. But again, we're at number 9. This is for real genre enthusiasts, not the people that really just want to find like a really good gem. Those are going to come as we get closer to number 1. Number 8, for a little change of pace, one starring a woman named Salma Hayek, is Everly. This is a really cool little, it's a small movie, kind of like the previous two, except it feels like it's got a much bigger budget because they condense it down to one set. You basically are in this giant, it's not a hotel room, it's a brothel. It's like this whole building is a brothel, and you're in this huge suite the entire movie, and it plays really well. It never really gets stale. You never really get bored with it. But essentially, Salma Hayek plays an ex-assassin type of character, kind of a Kill Bill-ish kind of a character, who is stuck in this hotel room, and everyone is trying to come in and kill her, and she's having to like defend her post. And then it gets into why she's there, who she's after, who's after her. All of that stuff's really cool. It's got a really cool vibe to it. It is very graphic. It is very explicit. If you love both of those things, you'll probably dig this one. At number 7, V for Vendetta. Now, I know some of you would probably rank this a lot higher. This one is a very good revenge story. I mean, it's like the ultimate revenge story, almost. But I feel like it really suffers from pacing issues. Outside of that, It's got a really incredible visual style. It's got a really unique take on sort of the dystopian future. It's got a really good revenge story in it. It's got so many elements that work so well, but that pacing one really kind of can kill a movie for me. Didn't really kill this one, but it definitely puts it back at number 7 for me. And so as V for Vendetta was just a really good revenge story that sort of didn't pace out well, I'm going at number 6 with one that is barely a revenge story that is paced perfectly, and that is Wind River, which is really one of the better new releases you can currently watch on Netflix. Jeremy Renner plays basically an investigator who is trying to solve a murder. A young girl is murdered. It takes place on partly on an Indian reservation, so there's some of those elements that are great, and you sort of get, it's essentially an investigation story that sort of becomes a revenge story. I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to say anything more than that. This was really one of the better movies to have come out last year and really got overlooked, which is probably why it's available on Netflix. But this is one of the better movies on the list. The reason it's in the middle is just because it just squeaks in at being a revenge flick. At number 5, I'm going with Bad Day for the Cut. Now, I'm actually releasing a full review on this movie tomorrow. If you're watching this in the future, you'll be able to find that video easily, but I really enjoyed this one. It's from Ireland, small cast, you're not going to really recognize anybody. A couple of them were in Game of Thrones, but it's about a guy who's an older guy in his 50s, and his mother, who's in her 70s, gets murdered, and he just goes essentially on a warpath with a shotgun. He's a farmer, you know, so it's really interesting. It's got a really interesting twist. This is not a John Wick movie. This is not a shoot 'em up movie, but it's got some interesting sequences. It's brutal. It's a hard R. So if you're into that, if you clicked on this video, odds are you're going to really dig this one, and odds are hardly any of you have seen it. So this is really one of the better recommendations on this list. And number 4, one almost everybody has seen, but it really deserves to be here. It'd be weird to not have it on the list, Inglorious Basterds. Now, one of Tarantino's better revenge movies. He does that genre so well. And no, he hasn't just done it once or twice. He's done it a couple of times, including another one that's further down this list. But Inglorious Basterds is great. It's never been my absolute favorite of his, but as far as a revenge story, it really is just the ultimate like revenge fantasy. And then on top of the revenge aspect, which is great in this one, you get the amazing sequences like the one in the bar with Michael Fassbender, one of his earlier roles, if you can believe that. Really just great sequences. And there are, you know, just like I was talking about pacing, this one does have some slower paced scenes, but the dialogue is just so intricate and interesting. You're there the whole time. So this one absolutely deserves to be here. The only reason it's back at number 4 is because Kill Bill 1 and 2 are at number 3. Didn't mean to put Tarantino back to back like that, but he's so consistent in his filmmaking that they really do sort of just squeeze into the same spot on this list. I remember the first Kill Bill Volume 1 just being one of the best theater experiences I've ever had. Mainly because the movie's great from beginning to end. It's interesting on the first watch. It's so different. Even though, yes, he does take from a lot of other filmmakers, but it really is so different, and it has like a freshness and sort of that retroness to it. All of that sort of has faded out now because this movie's aged, but on the first viewing, I just didn't know what was coming, and then that epic sequence at the end with the Crazy 88, the entire audience was just going nuts. Like, I saw this on opening night, so nobody knew what was coming, and it was bananas. Like, we were laughing and screaming. I mean, it was so much fun. I enjoy watching this one now just because I enjoyed it so much before. That said, fantastic revenge movie, epic revenge story. Gets a little slow at the end of Volume 2, but great revenge movie. But one I like even better than Kill Bill is Martin Scorsese's Gangs of New York. Really fantastic revenge story woven into this really amazing period piece with one of, and I'm not one to just like like just go nuts for Daniel Day-Lewis. I really do like him, but like I've hated on Lincoln a little bit in this channel and gotten some shit for it, by the way, in the comments. But Bill the Butcher is one of the best villains ever portrayed on film. He does such an amazing job creating this just barely over the top character. Like, he's just a little bit not realistic, much like a lot of the sets and the clothes. They're not period accurate, which Scorsese usually is, but they just tip it over the edge a little bit in this movie, and it gives it this amazing sort of fanciful type of a feel. Really, really love it. The only drawback for this one is that as long as it is, and I'm not complaining about length on a movie, but as long as it is, it really sort of, the pace of it really slows down towards the end rather than ramping up. You know, the first 2/3, in my opinion, are much better than the last third or last quarter. That said, I really enjoy everything about this movie. I love the period. I love all of it. Now, I know most of you have probably seen the last handful that I just recommended, so I wanted to leave you at number 1 with one hopefully a lot of you haven't seen yet, and hopefully one that a lot of you watch and enjoy. It is going to be subtitled, and I have talked about it once before, but 13 Assassins is one of the most incredible revenge stories, and it's portrayed so well in this movie. It's not very old. It was shot fairly recently. I don't know the exact year, but it's about samurai, and it's about a really basically, it's a 7 samurai story where some samurai are hired to assassinate one guy who is just like laying waste to this area of Japan, and it plays out like an old Western. They sort of wait him out in this old town. You know, they travel to this old town and they wait him out. They know he's going to be coming through. I will say this one, the story's compelling throughout. It's got some compelling elements, but it is slow. But the last 30 minutes, I mean, full 30 minutes of this movie are insane. The wheels come off. It is not just the most brutal, but like the most just masculine thing I've ever seen on film. It really beats any sort of modern samurai film. Highly recommend it. Please watch it. Please let me know what you think in the comments here or in future videos. I will read them, but I will keep making videos like this as long as you keep watching them. But thanks for watching this one, and you will see me next time.